Hi guys, my name is Joy. I'm currently a rising junior at Wellesley College. I major in media arts and sciences and I minor in art history. I've done half of my time here. I kind of know what the vibes are, so I thought I would make a little advice video for incoming students. First of all, congratulations for getting in. And then this video is kind of a comprehensive overview, so I'm going to be breaking it off into a couple of sections. The first one is some tasks to do before you get to Wellesley. The second is on move-in and orientation. The third one is what to pack. The fourth one is about academics, and then the last one is about leaving campus. So let's just get started. First thing I think you should do, if you haven't already, is make a Facebook account. Now, if you already have one and you're already in the class of 2025 group, good for you, you're ahead of the game. But a couple of groups that I think you should look into are Free and for Sale, Wellesley College Rides, and then later on there will be groups related to your major. There's groups for sharing syllabi and textbooks. There's just like a bunch of different groups, and a lot of them are really helpful. If you're not really a social media person, I don't think Instagram or Twitter are essential, but I think Facebook can be really helpful. The second thing to do is figure out your mailbox code, where it is, and how to open it. They're kind of finicky to get into, but during the first, I want to say like month of college, like if you haven't gotten your credit card yet or something like that, you'll need it mailed there. You'll probably need to use your mailbox more than you think, and then it's also good to just note down your unit box number so that when you go pick up your packages, you actually know what it is, and just make sure that you know what the address to put when you order stuff is, because you'll probably be ordering a lot of items during the first couple months when you're settling in. So just get all your mailing stuff, your address, your numbers, get all of them together so that you don't make a mistake when you order stuff. And also just like put down your dorm name and your dorm number so that when you move in and you're also figuring out like what exit to drive into to drop off your stuff, that will also be really helpful. The next section is the actual move-in and orientation part. If you get there first, you kind of have first picks on everything. So basically what I did, because I lived on West Side, I chose which side of the room that I wanted, but I also took like the worst part of the closet, like the inside part. So just think about making compromises. And if you're already there with them, it'll be a lot easier, but because I was an international student, I got there earlier. The other thing is to not expect too much from your roommate. When you first move in, you'll have to fill out a little form that basically asks some compatibility questions that are like, what time do you think you'll go to sleep? Do you want to have guests over a lot? And keep in mind that a lot of the answers to those questions will change. I know that I put a lot of answers that changed simply because the thing that I was interested in over the first couple weeks changed drastically. I thought I was going to be going to bed at like midnight, but I ended up going to bed at like 8 p.m. because I decided to join novice crew. So communicate about some of those changes as well. Also, just like be friends with the people who live around you. It'll help you out a lot later. In terms of orientation, it's going to be a really long time. There's events scheduled like every hour. Don't expect that you have to go to all of them. I know that sometimes they're labeled as like mandatory, or at least for international orientation, there was a couple sections that were like very mandatory, and because people weren't showing up, they were getting pretty pissed. But take it at your own pace. A lot of people that I know stopped going to orientation once they found their friend group and just stuck to them and hung out and bonded over those couple days, which is, one way to go about it. It doesn't work for everybody. It didn't work for me. I found it really hard to like find a group of people at first. I would say if you haven't found your group of people, try to keep going to events, but don't go to all of them. Like maybe like one or two a day. A lot of people have stories that are like, my best friends are the people that I met in orientation, and honestly, good for them, but it's not that way for everybody. As for packing, you don't need as much as you think you do. It honestly depends on what orgs you're gonna be active in. I brought one set of formal clothes because everyone in their college videos like, you'll eventually need one, and I guess the first 2 years have been kind of different for me, so I just never had to use them. The other thing is there's a lot of things that are shareable and easy to use that the college already provides, such as shared fridges on every floor, stoves, microwaves. If you want to bring a mini fridge, you have to pay a $50 fee because of our divestment vote, which was basically like convincing the board at Wellesley that yes, we're committed to divestment. We will pledge to do these things. One of them is to pay a fee if you have a mini fridge, pay a larger fee for your car, less red meat, and then less frequent times of the locomotion running. And it kind of sucks that this is what we have to do to even like convince, it was just a scandal. But anyways, you have to pay a fee. You don't have to pay the fee if you have a medical reason as to why you need a mini fridge. If you don't, it's quite an expensive fee to pay, especially because a lot of the secondhand fridges are like 30 something bucks. So let's say you're paying 30 bucks on a secondhand fridge, you have to pay $50 just to use it. The other thing is really you don't need a microwave. I don't know anybody who has a microwave, but a lot of college videos have people buying microwaves. You also don't really need a printer because there's printers in different res halls, there's printers in every library and all the academic buildings. You don't need a stapler. These are all things you can find elsewhere. And I think everybody needs a pair of boots. Rain boots, snow boots, just like at least one pair. It rains quite a bit. You also need an umbrella. I don't know what it is about Wellesley students, but I feel like all of them just embrace the rain, and I don't know how they do it, but I can't live without my umbrella. On the topic of shoes, I would say bring like a pair of slippers or just something you can wear like around the dorm so you don't have to put sneakers on every time you leave your room, but at least you can still feel clean in your room. The other thing is don't buy like a really huge detergent box. Like my mom bought me like the biggest powder detergent box, which nobody uses. Everyone uses liquid now, but I don't know why, but my mom was super into the powder one and it lasted like 60 loads. It's been 2 years and I still haven't finished that one box of detergent. And you have to carry everything to the basement, or if you live on east side, it's like the second and fourth floors, I think. Honestly, just get Tide Pods or like get something smaller. Get like the little detergents. You really don't need the huge ones. They last you way longer than you think, and at the end of the year by move out there's always like half full ones lying everywhere. So yeah, just pack light. You'll need like a nice winter coat, but you'll need to think more about layering instead of just buying things on the outside to keep you warm. Invest in some heat tech. Love heat tech, wear that all the time. Get some hats always keep you warm. About academics, there's a couple things that you get to take advantage of as a first year. First of all, you have shadow grading, which is literally the best thing ever. So try and get into some of the classes that you know are harder, or try to take classes in areas that you're interested in exploring or you don't feel that confident in. I took my lab science during then, and I'm glad I did because I got a C on my first midterm. So use that to your advantage, but don't use it as a way to slack off, because I kind of slacked off in some of my classes and I wish I didn't because I ended up needing that knowledge for other classes, but that's another story. The other thing that you get is a first year advisor, which isn't that high stakes as it really seems. Don't take it too seriously because sometimes you're matched with a professor that doesn't really have anything to do with your academic interests. For example, my advisor was a math professor and I still haven't taken a single math course at Wellesley. I mean, she was really nice and she kind of took me through the basics, like filling distribution requirements, that kind of thing. Some people do get along really well with their first year advisor, and some of them even become their major advisors, so just keep an eye out, but don't feel like it has to be the one person you go to for all your academic questions. The next thing is you really don't need a 4-year plan as a first year, especially if you don't know what you want to major in, or even if you do think you have an idea of what you want to major in, it may change. That's what happened to me. Instead of focusing so much on a 4-year plan, I would say focus on getting your distribution requirements filled. A lot of people say like don't worry about it as a first year, you'll end up taking a bunch of classes and they'll end up working out anyways, which I do kind of agree with, but this past sophomore year has really opened my eyes to like how many repeat requirements I have that I didn't really need, and if I just planned things out a little better, I probably would have been able to take less of these filler classes that I didn't actually have to do. So I would say just plan out your distribution requirements and then That's all you really have to think about until sophomore year when you start considering different majors. There's some special cases, like if you want to take 5 classes in your second semester, then you'll kind of have to have a plan to explain to your dean why you really need this class. Or if you are having trouble cross-registering, it can be a good way to show that you've prepared and thought this through. But really, if that's not on your mind, it's not that big of a deal. The other thing you can take advantage of are taking classes at other institutions like MIT, Babson, Olin. You can take some really interesting classes that they don't have here, and I would really recommend doing it, especially after COVID. Like, just having an excuse to leave campus can be really nice, and you get to meet people from all different places. There's like some pretty cool stuff at other schools that you get to use. Like, if you get an MIT ID, you have access to one of the Harvard libraries. Babson has a foundry where you can use all their laser cutters and stuff. And then I think it's also Babson, they have like a pottery thing where they have like all the wheels and the clay. It might be Olin, I don't know, but one of those schools have it. And those are all resources that you have access to as a Wellesley student. My final tip for academics, especially when it comes to choosing classes and building your schedule, is ask. Ask in Facebook groups, ask people who are older than you. You really need opinions on professors, and I would say don't think about your schedule as much. I know as a first year, I was so convinced that my schedule had such good timing, everything worked out, so I just stayed in some of my classes even though I wasn't interested in them. If you're sitting in your first class and you don't vibe with the professor, you don't vibe with the class, you need to get out of there. I really regret just like sitting through a lot of my classes, and to be honest, at this point I'm a sophomore, I'm halfway through my education. I feel like the amount of Wellesley students who have told me about the numerous amazing professors they have kind of makes me regret some of the choices that I made, because yes, I've run into some really amazing professors, but I've also run into some really bad ones, and I could have taken more steps to fix that, but I was just never one of those people who like to shop around for different classes. But one of my exchange student friends, she literally shopped around for like 6 different classes at once, and she always ended up taking classes that she really liked. So we should all learn from her. And don't be too nervous about it. Just like email your professors, it'll be fine. The last section is actually leaving campus, and I think this is important more than ever. Obviously with COVID, there will be a lot of different rules. Apparently the locomotion is going to be reservation based this year, but I'm just gonna let you know a couple of options. Normally we take the loco. It used to run every hour, but because of divestment, things may be changing. There's also the commuter rail that's really close, like 10-15 minute walk. There's also like a Natick bus, and then there's zip cars. So there's ways to get around. A huge part of going to Wellesley College is actually leaving campus. The town around Wellesley is really rich and white. There's not a lot of like affordable places to like shop or eat. I would say like Riceburg, maybe Lemon Tide. It's kind of how it is. I would say as a first year, explore the city, use that free MFA pass, because tickets to the MFA normally cost $25. So every time you go, you're saving $25. Think about that. Use your student discount, go into the city, do it all. That's like a pretty quick overview over a lot of really different things. If you have more specific questions, you can always put them down below and I can answer them either in the comments, or I can also make another video if I get a lot of questions. But I just want to say, like, college is a really interesting time, and the transition period can always be a little scary. So I hope this was helpful and provided you with something new. And if you ever want to hear anything really specific, leave that below too. But thank you for watching.